All right. Welcome to another edition of Mind Dump Monday. This is episode number 4. A couple weeks ago, we started in on early specialization in youth sport, and I wanted to continue that topic. I mentioned the long-term athlete development plan for Cycling Canada and Weightlifting Canada. And I wanted to kind of dive into Cycling Canada's approach here, which is this big jumble behind me. So I'm going to warn you right now, this is a big, long topic. So I'm going to try to split it up into 2 parts. But if you are a coach, a parent, or an athlete, a youth athlete, and you are in the middle of your sport and your training, this is important for you to watch. We're going to dive into kind of the training aspects of sport and what you should or shouldn't be doing as far as volume is concerned, and how you can optimize your training for success in the long term, rather than just trying to specialize early and do one thing and end up injured. So there's going to be a lot of information coming at you. Stay with me. Again, we're going to break it down into 2 parts because this is a long and very dense topic, and I'm going to be going pretty quick. So buckle in and let's go. So this here is the Cycling Canada Long-Term Athlete Development Plan, or Lifelong Physical Activity Plan. I will commend Cycling Canada for breaking it down in this manner. This is actually a very comprehensive approach. Most of your sport organizations are going to have something along this line. So I know Soccer Canada has one up on their website that is free to download and access. Hockey Canada has one. I'm assuming Baseball Canada has one, likely Basketball Canada. But you can go in there and have a look and see what the breakdown is. Each one's going to be a little bit different. I think Cycling Canada, they took this from weightlifting, and weightlifting took this from Europe somewhere. But they've done a very good job of incorporating other sports and showing how that kind of fits into the long-term plan of an athlete. Even if you want them to focus in on one sport, there's still other components outside of that single sport that are extremely important for the development and well-being of the athlete, which is what we're going to get into here. So the way that they've set this up, you've got your hundreds of hours of training throughout a year. So 250, 500, 750, and 1,000 hours of training in a year. It sounds like a lot. If we break that down, 250 hours of training in a year works out to roughly 4.5 to 5 hours of training per week for 52 weeks a year. So, of course, there's going to be down weeks or weeks where there's no training, like Christmas break, which is coming up, or spring break if the kids are in school. There's going to be no training there, or you may have extra volume of training when you go to tournaments and things like that. So this is just a weekly average. It's going to fluctuate just as training plans do. Up to 1,000 hours of training in a year. Now this is going to be, as you can see, this is at the high end in the adult life of the athlete. This is about 20 hours a week of training. It's 19.25 hours a week for 52 weeks a year. Again, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be high weeks. There's going to be low weeks. But that's a weekly average. So we're going up in about 4.5 or 5 hour increments every 250 hours per year. At the bottom here, we've got the breakdown, the categories of training that the Canadian LTAD model, or long-term athlete development model, uses across pretty much all sports. So we've got active start, fundamentals, learning to train, training to train, learning to compete, training to compete, learning to win, and training to win. So each component, you've got your active start, fundamentals, and then it's broken down into 2 block segments where you learn and then you train. Once you figure out the learning the fundamentals of training, then now you train actively to train. Then you learn how to compete. Now you're working against a better competition, and now you're training to compete. So now you're taking it serious. It's like year 1, year 2, year 1, year 2. So that's how it's broken down. And then at the end, in the final column, we've got active for life. So that's like retirement, whatever age that happens at. When we look at active start, this is 0 to 6 years old or 0 years in your sport. Fundamentals is 6 to 9 for males, 6 to 8 years old for females, or 0 to 3 years within your sport. Learning to train, 9 to 12 years old for males, or 8 to 11 years old for females. And again, early in your sport years, so 1 to 5 years within your sport. Training to train, we've got 12 to 6 years old, or 11 to 15 year old for female. So now we're in, this is kind of the peak height velocity. Now we're like hitting growth spurts. And then we get into later high school. We've got 16 to 18 year old for males, 15 to 17 for females, and 4 to 8 years within your sport. Training to compete, now we're outside of high school, we're early university, we're either at the collegiate level or we're on a national development team at this point. This is 18 to 21 years old for males, 17 to 21 for females, or 6+ years within your sport. Learning to win, now you're on the national development team. Now we're looking at going to World Cups or going to Junior Worlds. You might be taken as an alternate at this point, going to your specialized events. With the next year, if you're lucky, you might be at Olympic level at this point, but definitely in the train to win portion, 23 to 25 and beyond, you're looking at training, you're looking at 10+ years in your sport and at least your first Olympic cycle, possibly your second Olympic cycle by this point, depending on your sport. So when we start here in this sort of active start, we're looking at multiple physical activities. So none of this is really structured for the 0 to 6 year old. This is not really what I'm interested in, but you're just exposing your child to lots of different physical activities where they can jump and play, and they're playing on playgrounds and they're tumbling and rolling, and they have access to all sorts of different things that they can play and touch and kind of find their way in the world and, you know, fall down, get up, that sort of thing. Then we get into the fundamentals. So the 6 to 9 years old, the under 10s. This point, you're generally looking at broad bases of fundamental skills. So being able to run and jump and throw and catch and land and fall and all those sorts of things. At this point, from a developmental standpoint, your child is really sort of plastic, really adaptable. And some of the things that work well for a youth athlete at that point, or any youth at that point, are things that are highly neurological, highly skill-based. Those are the things, there's a learning point at this age where they're like sponges. So we want them to train in those sorts of things where they don't have big engines yet. They don't have all of the hormones necessary to put size on and to build big amounts of strength. So everything at this point is really skill-oriented and neurological. So Cycling Canada has chosen sort of BMX as the primary sort of sport. Now it could be track cycling and track sprinting specifically, because it's short, it's gear restricted, it's all about leg speed and just learning how to manipulate your body up and down a track. But with BMX, it's a lot more fun. The courses are a little bit different. You got to go over jumps. You're controlling the bike. It's very technical. You've got different pumps and berms and all sorts of different obstacles. So it's basically like gymnastics on a bike. So if you're not in cycling, gymnastics and gymnastics is probably your best early development sport. Weightlifting would be in there as well. because you're just using a dowel, and it's very technical, and you're learning skills, and you're developing that nervous